If you are struggling to get a diagnosis for your dizziness, I wanted to share a behind the scenes patient that I had this week. I got a call from another physical therapist whose patient was suffering from on and off dizziness since July. This patient developed an acute kind of off balance feeling since Saturday, which would be 5 days in a row. It wasn't a spinning, it was more of an off balance, rocky feeling, and it was present at all times, definitely worse with walking. There was some increased positional dizziness when flipping to the left side, but it was just abated or went away very quickly. And I went to go see this patient and help her kind of figure out, diagnose what's going on. She had been to an emergency room 2 times and another physical therapist. So I was asked to evaluate. So upon examination, we went through the history first. This was a 52-year-old female who was postmenopausal, and she had a history of migraines since childhood. But her migraines were typically 1 time a week. She could take Sumatriptan, but she was not on any prophylactic medication. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. She really didn't follow any triggers. She doesn't know why she gets the migraines, but it would always be classically on her right side and kind of stabbing behind the eye with light sensitivity. Now, with this new onset of dizziness, it would come and go. It would kind of be fleeting, a couple seconds or minutes long since July, on and off. And then this Saturday hit, and it was just constantly feeling like she was off. So I asked her a little bit more about her history, and she did not have a headache or increased neck pain with this episode. Again, it wasn't like it was a spinning sensation, it was just off. She had no aura, so no sparkles or zigzags in her vision with this increased off balance. She had increased light sensitivity with this time, and even though she had a history of motion sickness, I asked her if there was more sensitivity, and the answer was yes. So just like tracking and moving the eyes would cause dizziness, shopping, going into the hospital and seeing the patterned floors would cause more off balance or discomfort, like nausea. So we kind of stored that information away. There was no spinning, there was no hearing change, there was no coordination issues, and there was no increase in frequency of headaches per se. So we got the history, and I'm starting to formulate a plan. So the first thing I wanted to know is how involved the neck was with her disequilibrium. So what we did very quickly, just looked at range of motion, made sure there's no tingling or numbness into the arms. We made sure her strength was equal on both sides. And then I did a traction test where I just gave her a little bit of a pull, and her dizziness started to dissipate. So that was my clue 1, that the neck could be a component in this off balance constant feeling, which is a bit classic of the neck. You feel hours long or constant. You feel like it's more of a floaty or even rocking versus a spinning. So that was my first clue. We did some examination as far as the vestibular system was concerned. We did a head impulse thrust test, which is the quick, can I keep my eyes on target? She passed that test. We did a slow VOR and then a quick VOR, and she was able to keep her eyes on target. I did a gaze evoked nystagmus all the way here, all the way there in room light and with goggles, looking for spontaneous nystagmus, which means brain or a virus, or if we're getting beating of the eyes one direction or the other, which could also give us a possibility that was vestibular nerve. That was not there either. So I quickly was able to rule in motion sensitivity, which with moving the eyes caused dizziness. I put that in a migraine column with her history, and I excluded vestibular nerve conditions. The other thing we did is positional testing, your BPPV, and you can get some positive dizziness with migraines and neck, but you wouldn't get a nystagmus, a classic BPPV nystagmus. You can get a downbeat nystagmus with migraines, but that's kind of for another conversation. That's more of a central nystagmus. I was looking for a BPPV or crystal nystagmus. She had no signs of that at all. So we could rule out the vestibular nerve, we could rule out BPPV, and then I started to work on her neck, do some spinal mobilizations. We did traction and suboccipital release, which there was an active trigger point on that right suboccipital that literally shot pain to her eye. So I know that right suboccipital could probably benefit for some deep tissue work, maybe even injections of a trigger point release or Botox with the help of a neurologist. So after I worked on her for about 15 minutes, taught her husband how to do self-traction, taught her how to use those little tennis balls or lacrosse ball that she could put at the base of her skull and just kind of work those suboccipital muscles herself. She got up for the first time in 5 days. She was not rocking at all. So the cervical spine was giving her acute onset of that rocking. And then your neck can be a trigger for migraines. So I'm hypothesizing that she probably had some triggers. The barometric pressure had changed on that specific Saturday. She had some neck triggers and maybe food triggers that we discussed. So after treating that neck, which could have triggered her increased motion sensitivity and light sensitivity, we concluded that she had a vestibular migraine presentation with an overlay of cervicogenic dizziness. I was able to do a quick dictation of a note, send that to her neurologist, her other physical therapist, and now I'm glad to report that her neurologist is having her on a vitamin supplementation of magnesium, vitamin D, B2, coenzyme Q10, and doing a food diary trigger, which I also have available with all of these supplementations and a dizziness tracker and food tracker. I'll put that in the comments below if you're interested in your copy, which she is using to track her migraine triggers. And we are going to see with lifestyle changes and vitamins, and also with working with her physical therapist on those suboccipital muscles and postural control, if we can eliminate or reduce her frequency of migraines and make sure that that cervicogenic component is not contributing to any further migraines. So if that sounds like you and you have any questions about how to tell if you have cervicogenic dizziness or vestibular migraines and tease out a little bit more of your symptoms, go ahead and drop them in the comments below. Remember, I also do vestibular coaching for people who are having trouble with figuring out where to go with their vestibular disorders or their case. And you can get a free discovery call with me at my Calendly page, which is on my homepage at Treat Dizziness at Home. So have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Until I see you next week, stay healthy, stay steady, and stay strong.